It's a guy that was going for Norwood 6, not still Norwood 6, but was going towards there. And he told me that he wanted to fix it once and for all, to finish it, and if possible, at least for some years, to have full head. So we went for a big extraction. We extracted, if I'm not mistaken, 4,700 something grafts.
All right, we have Dr. Chris Salakos of Choiexpert. Dr. Salakos, thank you so much for joining me here. Salakos.
Sakalos.
Sakalos. Okay. Das.
Difficult trick.
Thank you so much for correcting me there. I thought we would start off by answering some questions from the forum and getting a doctor to give.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I've been very, very impressed on Instagram, and actually a couple of forum members reached out to me and said, "Hey, you should check out Choiexpert. Their results are looking absolutely amazing." And I have to say,
trying our best.
Very, very, very impressed. So I wanted to show you this case from the forum and get your honest opinion and thoughts. So we have a patient here, 24 years old, Norwood 7, embrace baldness, or is a hair transplant possible? So here he talks about he started taking minoxidil at 18. He lost his hair at 22. He developed horrible side effects from finasteride, so he stopped using it. So pretty much right now he is just not using anything. So that was him at 18. That's him now. At 21, you can see the hair is kind of going back. And so this is him now at 24. As you can see
Completely
here.
Norwood 7. Yes.
Yeah, completely Norwood 7. And let me close up a little bit here. He still has a little bit of residual hair, but really not much. And so here's the most important thing in regards to whether or not he's a candidate for hair transplant surgery is his donor, right? Does he have enough hair to really move to the top? And right here, you can see that this is basically all going to eventually be lost, especially if he's not on finasteride or any type of hair loss medication. And
quite fast, probably.
Yeah, quite fast. Yeah, by 30, that's gone. It looks like, now keep in mind, this is kind of a bad lighting because it's hard to see. It's sort of like a shadow effect.
As I see from the camera now, doesn't look very thin, the donor on the center, but how is the sides?
So let's take a look at the sides. So here, yeah, you see the sides are not as dense. Definitely, you could see right here in the back there's a big difference to this right here on the
actually
sides.
we eliminate the donor area on the center, and his sides are not a part where we can extract, as we already see the skin, and that will create problems if we're gonna extract of this donor area of his sides. And the question is what we can do with the hairs that we can extract, the grafts we can extract from this patient. Not too much, I would say, and having in mind that he cannot make it better because he cannot take finasteride or dutasteride, probably he's not willing to take any of this medication again. After, we have to consult the patient and see what is his expectations. Because, I had cases that the patient was telling me that, doctor, look, I know I don't have good donor area, I have almost nothing. I don't want to be like you. I don't want to have your share. I just want to have something. If it's this kind of person that understands fully that with, let's say, I didn't measure the area now, but let's say we can extract 1,200 grafts for his donor area, and we can fix something in the front just not to be totally empty. Yes, okay, he can do this. It's better than nothing. But okay, this kind of people are, it's very sensitive to tell them that, look, I reject you. I don't reject people that easy, but they have to know exactly what they will take from this transplant. And this guy can take very, very, very limited results.
If you were to get a transplant, I would probably right here, this already where his hair is kind of still there, I would follow that same hairline. So, going like right here is out of the question. That's
going on a very, very, very high hairline.
Yeah, just kind of follow this pattern.
Connect it right and left.
Yeah, maybe bring out the temples a little bit.
Yes, we will give to the guy some limits on his forehead, because it's very important for our appearance to have limits on our forehead and not to have a forehead that starts from our eyebrows and then taps on the back. But still, it's a very, very difficult case. It's a case that you have to, every graft that you try to extract to be totally percent that you're gonna transect it. Should be very careful. You have to be with every graft very careful, but especially with these patients. You cannot end up to a clinic that will not take care of his donor properly. And to be honest, with the limited things that we can offer him, probably he will not go forward. And we have to be sure that he understands when we are aiming to what is the target.
Yeah, the hardest thing about cases like this, really, to be honest with you, is the age.
Yes.
To tell a 24-year-old, if he was 54 or 64, it'd be completely different, right?
Yes.
But to tell a 24-year-old, look, your hairline, if we do surgery, your hairline's going to be very high. The crown is probably going to stay bald, and you're not going to have that, amazing density that people at your same age have. Uh, that's an unfortunate thing, and that's what really, really sucks, because these guys, most of them want to look like they're 24. And it's heartbreaking to tell someone, look, you're not going to achieve that. You're not going to be able to have that curly hair that all the 24-year-olds are doing right now. It's just not possible. What I would suggest to this patient is to try maybe a topical finasteride, topical dutasteride, and see how how you respond. See if the donor gets better. Use, minoxidil. Go back on it and see how you do on the medication.
I don't think that his donor will come back to be a strong donor area ever. His only chance of getting a better donor area was to take oral finasteride. He cannot take it. Probably he doesn't have lots of chances to have a better donor area, at least from what we know till today. And yes, it's very difficult for him to understand it, and I can get in his position because I had a lot of patients in the past that from young age I was telling them that, look, it's very difficult case, you cannot reach that point that you want. And I had cases that guys were telling me that, doctor, I'm not going out for a coffee because I'm embarrassed of my look. And then you have to start, be like a more psychologist for the patient, because help him understand, make him understand that, okay, it's not the end of the world. You can do something. After all, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, hair systems are always a good option.
Systems also can. It's an option. It's not the best option, but in these cases, it's an honest option that. Ask me as a transplant surgeon, I've said it to some of my patients that, look, if you want great hair, you can go for a hair system because your donor area is limited. You can never end up with a great result. And I believe that, to be honest with the patient, is the most important thing, because after all, we're not here to take their money. We are here to try to help them, to make them feel better, and to make them get what they want to get, and to make them understand their limits. Let's look at a different case, but it's a similar question. We got here at Hey Everyone, long-time lurker, first-time poster. I wanted to get your opinion on whether or not I would be a good candidate for a hair transplant. Here's some information about me. 39 years old, been thinning since my early 20s, was on finasteride and minoxidil from 20 to 35, stopped it during COVID because life got crazy, got back on finasteride and minoxidil 9 months ago, and have seen some slight improvements. So this is the patient. Keep in mind, again, 39 years old versus 24 years old. Mm-hmm. Now, the pattern is pretty evident that he will looks like a Norwood 7. He has that diffuse pattern. Totally. But he has a great deal of hair still left. And I would bet that if he let his hair grow pretty long, that it would be hard to see the pattern. It'd be difficult to see that he was balding this much if he actually let it grow. But here you see hairline is actually fairly strong compared to the mid scalp. And he's been on finasteride for 9 months. Beard also looks very, very good, which could be an additional donor source. And here you see his hair, and it's a pretty bright light, and it looks pretty good. Looks like, yes, this donor is completely different from the previous one. Can we see the sides also? You have photos? That's the only thing he showed. I guess you can see here. Yes, sides look pretty good. I mean, sides are pretty good. They don't look like they're thinning at all right here. Yeah. It's a much better donor area. The coverage value of this donor area is bigger. You can take big amounts of grafts. The hair that you can extract from every centimeter square that will not create problems to the donor area. It's a good amount of hair that you can use on top. And even if it's a diffuse alopecia, okay, you can always implant carefully between his own hair. You have again to explain to the guy that he has to continue with the medication. It's very important because hair loss, unfortunately, is it's a problem that continues for lifetime. And what you can
Yes.
do until now, what we can do is only to put a break on it. But it's a very important break on our hair loss because you cannot, as I say, chase your hair loss with transplants. You will never reach the result that you want, and you will always have some more gaps on your head, and you will try to do transplants after transplants, and the
Yeah.
capacity of the donor is not limitless. So this
Yes.
guy have good potentials if he's continuing the Finasteride as he started and do a proper transplant. He can have good potential with a longer hair, as you told. You are
Yeah.
right, and she will have a nice result. He will look.
What would you recommend this patient? What would be your goal? Because I feel like I'm looking at your website here and I actually see a patient that looks very similar to his, which I'm going to show after this. But so the audience can see, Dr. Tsalakos has a patient that looks very similar who achieved an excellent result. So what would you recommend this patient? What would be kind of your strategy?
Of course, continue with therapy with his finasteride. We could wait another 3 months to be sure that he took everything back from what he could take from the finasteride, and then proceed with a hair transplant, of course, to fill up all the gaps from the C zone to the hairline. Of course, the hairline is a good line. I wouldn't change it. Just go inside and increase
In between.
in between and increase the density. Actually, with my technique with the choy pens, it's easy to go in between because the choy pens give you the opportunity with a very small needles, very small choy pens to implant in between without creating any problems on the actual hair.
This is a patient who's very similar, I think, but he's a little bit worse off.
It
But
was worse. Yes.
yeah, but his hairline is still pretty strong, and this is incredible. I mean, 4,500 grafts, absolutely crazy.
Yes.
So I think this is a very
Happy.
similar case.
Yes, we have to aim for a big number of grafts, of course, to go for a dense pack to cover all of the gaps that the guy have. And also he's 39, so we can't go aggressively. There's no option. There's no reason to try to go to be conservative in this case. We can use most of the donor area that we can use to try to give him the result that he desires. Generally, I like to go for big extractions when I have the possibility to I have the chance to do it, and I have the right patient to do it. After all, a good result, it's two factors. It's a natural result and a dense result. If you don't have one of the two, it's not a success story. So you have to put both of these factors, try to put both of these factors every time. Because a natural result that's not dense, you are still a bald guy. Okay. Something that's not natural, okay, nobody wants it. So I'm not gonna spend time analyzing why you have to be natural. We've seen, I'm sure you've seen also lots of unnatural results.
Oh yeah, there's a famous bodybuilder who I've talked about a lot who actually has a very unnatural result. He went to one of those clinics in Turkey, and they do the same kind of hairline. It's like straight across and like a square. They just do like a square right here, and it just doesn't look natural. It grew, it grew well. It just is not a natural hairline. It's not what hairlines look like. Now, to be fair, do people really realize that it's not that unnatural? I don't think the public realize, like, they kind of see like his hair looks odd, but they don't know why. But someone who knows about hair transplants, they can spot it a mile away.
Lots of people that doesn't know about hair transplants and doesn't have digged on this issue. If they see a hairline that's low and but full, they say, good, this is a good transplant. It's dense, and they stay there. But actually, these people don't see deeply. It will not be like someone that want to check on your appearance really
Yeah.
check you.
Yeah. They just kind of see it from afar. They see,
See
oh,
it from far, see it
he has
fast, and
hair.
don't go for the details. But a lot of people, actually, our appearances are details. You know, it's about
Yeah.
details all the time. When I'm drawing a hairline, I'm thinking of so many details of the face of the person, of lots of time. It's like an art to draw a hairline, to make the hairline, because only single grafts and zigzag is not enough for me to have a successful hairline. It's a must, it's a must. When you don't have this and you don't keep the limits and you make it very low, okay, it's another story. But it's a must, this. But the
Yeah.
artistic part comes after. How do you imagine where to put every single hair and actually from where to find them? Because usually I try to find my single hairs that I'm gonna use for the line. I go very low, I go near the ears, I'm taking the really thin and small singles that I want to use for my hairline. Okay, some cases with very full donor areas, I cannot find a lot of singles. You have to split some grafts under the microscope, which is reasonable. It's okay what to do. But if I can't find them, I can find the thin ones that you can find them in some specific points. That's a difficult thing to do, but I'm always aiming to do it.
Yeah. There's this here's a good example of a hairline on Instagram of yours that I think looks really, really good. Uh so here
Mhm.
you kind of followed, he had a very strange, almost like a female pattern hair loss.
Yes, it had a very
Because
strange pattern.
yeah, because it's like a very thin line right here that's
Narrow,
thinning,
yes.
crown thinning, and yeah, it the hairline looks very, very, very good. But I
Yeah.
also wanted to bring up a case of your crown work that I thought was very, very impressive, and I wanted to ask how you managed to kind of get this sort of density with such a small number of grafts. This right here says 2450. Let me just share my screen here. 2,450 grafts. How were you able
Ah,
to achieve such high density?
the guy also started the medication. The guy also started medication. He started the Finasteride. So we focused on the front. We placed also some grafts in the back, and it worked well for him. So yes, finally we achieved to have a good result.
Okay.
Had some help of medication. You know,
Yeah.
medication. If you Google Finasteride, you know better than me that first thing you come up to is low libido and problems. Yes, but you see, sometimes it works, and if you have to achieve a target, at least it deserves to try because side effects are side effects. Even
Mm.
paracetamol have lots of side effects. If you have a headache, stay with a headache.
Yeah.
This cannot be done. So it's something that what I'm telling to my patients is let's start. Take some medication. Let's see how's your body reacting. You will have some side effects. You will not have some side effects. If you're not even try, how do you know? It deserves to try.
Yeah. That's what I think. I think that people get scared what they read online and they're like, I'm not even going to try it. But you never know until you try it. If you get side effects, stop taking it. That's my advice. And if you're really that scared, try a topical one. Try the topical finasteride, try a topical
Yes, of
dutasteride.
course. I'm
It,
using
it
a lot topical.
yeah, it actually works.
Right?
It's not as effective as the oral
Not as
version, but
effective. You have less percentage of effectiveness, but still you have a great
something.
effectiveness. And usually you don't have the side effects. You cannot have it
Yeah.
from the local ones. Of course, I faced patients that they told me that after for one or two times of using the local finasteride, they had some libido decrease. But this was I'm sure was in their mind. They're just
Yeah.
so stressed, worked like placebo on them, and
Yeah.
they just stop it
I had one guy claim on the forum that he used it one time. He
one
put it
time.
one time and he had side effects for a month. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't, and it was dutasteride. So you know how the molecule of dutasteride is so large for it to really penetrate one time use,
Yes,
it
one time
just,
used.
yeah, I don't think so. So yeah, that's a big thing, that the nocebo effect is real. You can, if your mind is telling you, especially in terms of like sexual function, if your mind is telling you it's not going to work, then it's not going to work. That's the truth.
Exactly.
Perfect segue. Another question on the forum here that I wanted to ask you. Medication for Norwood 7. Now, as you know, Norwood 7s are people
Medication
with
for Norwood
extreme.
7.
Yeah, medication for Norwood 7. So, a lot of Norwood 7s are either told, don't try it, don't take medication, it's pointless. So here's this question. I have a question about medication for a Norwood 7. I posted here before and contacted several doctors and was told there's nothing surgical that can be done because I depleted all of my donor area on my scalp. One doctor suggested oral minoxidil and dutasteride and said it's worth a try. I'm not expecting a full head of hair, but do you think it would be worth it? Will I end up being disappointed and depressed again? Something I'm afraid of again and losing hope. This is what his hair looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, indeed, a Norwood 7. What is your thoughts on medication on Norwood 7s?
Look, to be honest, I will tell you, not every patient is the same because there are some Norwood 7 that still have some very thin hair that left on their A, B, and C zone, but they are not even visible. So in these cases, yes, it's worth it to even try to take some medication because in combination with a transplant can make a better difference. Okay, if it's a Norwood 7, that's the guy is already have nothing there, not even a thin hair, then yes, I wouldn't put the patient into the condition to try to take some medication and give him some fake hope. So he will wait to see something, he will see nothing at the end of the day. So generally, I'm choosing the one path or the other path regarding on every case. There are cases that there are still some remaining very thin hairs miniatures that maybe some of them, not all of them, will come back. And maybe they will not be as thick as before, but it will add on the result. Always with a transplant. Because if you only
Yeah.
take the medication and you don't do a transplant, if you don't have a donor for the transplant, I don't think that it will deserve for your uh, deserve it to
Goals.
try to even try it. Yes. I
Yeah.
don't know what's your opinion about it.
I think that it's difficult, right? It all depends on your expectations. If you're thinking that maybe you're going to take the medication and it's going to do something really significant, and if you're not okay with sort of just strengthening the areas that are thinning, then you probably shouldn't take it because it's, the
Yeah, it's
likelihood
not
of
for
that
you.
happening is not
Exactly.
high. So it all depends on what. But if you want to take it just to strengthen your donor, to be able to get a hair transplant and kind of accept that the hair transplant itself is not going to be perfect, then maybe try it out. But it all depends on your own expectations.
And
Yeah.
to be honest, I have a lot of cases that they were rejected from other clinics, like, oh no, you are not a good candidate. Which I honestly speak with them and consulted them and try to see what they want from the transplant, what result they expect. And finally, we did the transplant. I can tell you that very very happy patients. Okay, they're not the guys that you will put on online to show up because it's not something wow, but for them it's something wow. Believe me.
Yeah.
So it's matter of perspective and matter of expectations.
We got another question here. How has hair transplant developed last 10 years? What can we expect the next 10 years? So, when I started looking at hair transplant 10 years ago, I feel the failure rate was higher before, and the results have become much better over these 10 years, especially for FUE. I remember there was endless discussion of FUE versus FUT, and of course, still ongoing, and FUT was definitely more recommended before than it is today. Let's say FUT/FUE rate was 3 out of 4 out of 10 today. I feel like it's 1 out of 10 or even less. What is failed hair transplant rate today on the better doctors, excluding the hair mills? How do you guys think the next 10 years will look? Anything new upcoming that looks promising? What are your thoughts on that? Obviously 10 years have passed. I had my first hair transplant 10 years ago, 2014. I mean, you were not seeing 4,500 grafts with FUE, 5,000, 6,000 grafts with FUE. Very, very, very few cases of doctors could do this. The majority of doctors were doing like 1,500, maybe 2,000 max per day with FUE. Now,
Numbers is it's one major change. When I started FUE back in the past, it was almost a decade, a bit less than a decade.
yeah,
Okay, we were extracting with the manual pans back in the days. Pans were bigger. Now we have better equipment that help us to go with even smaller punches, much smaller punches. So scarring on the donor area is limitless. So you have some very, very tiny scars that nobody can see them. Preservation of the grafts, of course. Now we are using hypothermosol with ATP. So we had to also do some changes because when you do bigger surgeries, you have to preserve the grafts lots of hours outside the body. So bigger survival rates, smaller tools. What else? What else? Yes, and the numbers. The numbers. We found our ways to be much faster in FUE, and some skilled surgeons can extract lots of grafts per hour and implant lots of grafts per hour. So FUT, I don't think that have a place anymore between the transplants. That's my personal opinion. I don't want to say
Yeah,
something
yeah,
for colleagues that still doing FUT.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would definitely, as a patient, I would definitely never.
And I respect
So
that. I mean,
for the next 10 years, okay, everybody's talking about cloning and things like that. I don't think that it's something very close. After 10 years, will be again the next 10 years goal. It's not something that easy. Because I have some patients that come to me and tell me, doctor, maybe we have to wait for cloning or do something now.
yeah,
Yes, I have,
you will be
I
completely
have these
bald if
questions.
you wait for cloning.
Yes, I have this question few times per year, not per month, but per year. What we have to wait to expect, I don't know. Maybe some medications that they're gonna work, medications that will slow down better the hair loss will be very, very helpful. But research is continuing, and a lot of colleagues are doing research, are trying to cope with it. Still, nothing FDA approved that we can use in medical practice. Every surgeon can also find his ways to do better handling of the donor area, using whole donor area, homogen, and
Yeah,
we're getting better. We have better surgeons nowadays. I've seen
yeah,
very, very nice, good results all over the world from a lot of colleagues.
yeah, absolutely. Have you heard of verteporfin?
There are some cases that you extract a graft, and the moment you extract it, you use it and
Injected.
inject it, and in some cases you see a regrow. Okay, it's something that we're waiting to see if it's actually working, and
Yeah.
I hope it is. So everybody will put it on our everyday routine. I'm not using it in my own clinic. I want to use only things that are. I don't do experiment on my patients. I'm not a researcher. I'm a hair transplant
Mhm.
surgeon.
Yeah.
But there are some surgeons that are doing some research on it and following them and waiting to see the results.
Well, Dr. Barghouti is the one who did the first human trial, and then there's another doctor, Dr. Ted Milne from the UK, who's going to be doing a clinical trial on it, and it's something that's exciting. I mean, it's one of the most exciting things I would say that may develop in the next 10 years. It's still very early, but I see that being a possibility over hair cloning. Hair cloning, I don't see it happening anytime soon. With the verteporfin, it's already FDA approved. We've already seen that there's some good things coming out. It's the only thing that I would say is really exciting in the next 10 years. How is a procedure done in your clinic? From start to finish, from the moment the patient gets into the door to the moment they leave. What's the process like?
Our everyday routine. Okay.
Yes.
Glad to tell you about that. First of all, I'm consulting all of my patients. In the morning, I take my time to consult with them to set targets together to see what they want, set up a surgical plan. It's very important, very, very important. Of course, medical history and all these things that we have already checked before they come to the clinic. So in the morning, we are doing our plan. We're designing our new hairline. We discuss and decide together where to put it because it's always a question in the morning in a hair transplant clinic how low we have to go.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of aspects you have to take in mind: the age of the patient, hair loss pattern, how it looks. It's going to go for Norwood 7 and he's 24. You cannot go very low at 6
Yeah.
centimeters that he used to be. So I'm taking deep discussions because I want to be clear and to be on the same path with the patient. After that, when we discussed and we have designed the hairline, we're starting extraction. I usually start personally all of my extractions, see what tools we want to use, which machines we use, how small punches we can use. And then after I extract a few grafts, one of my doctors help me to finish with the extraction. have in mind that in my clinic we have only doctors performing. I don't use any technicians. That's how I want it. Maybe it's not very profitable for me to hire doctors as technicians, but it's much better to have someone that it's a doctor above every patient.
Wow,
He
so
told me
there's no technicians at your clinic, only
no,
doctors.
no technicians at all. Doctors
Wow.
performing and nurses that they handle only the grafts. They are with the microscopes taking the grafts, singles, doubles, etc. But they are not performing on the patient.
So in your clinic, you're having the other doctors, are they doing like the extractions or are they doing the implantation? Or are you doing the extractions, or do you kind of go side by side with another doctor and do it together?
Actually, all of my doctors are well trained. They can do a whole transplant by themselves. They know how to extract. They know how to implant. But I have my OCD with some things, and I want to do some things by myself. So I'm doing the connections usually myself. I'm always doing the hairline myself. There is no way there's a patient in my clinic and I will not do his hairline myself. So yes, everybody has his part. I'm doing the important parts on my side, starting the extraction, doing the connections, doing the
When you say
hairline.
connections, the channels, right? The incisions.
No, we're not opening incisions. Sometimes connections with the original natural hair, because it's a way to connect it and to be natural. So I'm implanting something like, let's say, 30% of the grafts. I never did incisions, but generally with the joint pens you can do better density because you can put the grafts very close. Theoretically, everybody can understand that you have to make a bigger hole if you have to put after the graft inside. So if you make bigger holes, you cannot go very dense, or you make bigger trauma.
You're doing DHI, direct hair implantation. You're
I'm
just
doing the exactly.
okay. So DHI with the Choi. And so in your clinic, just to understand, because I don't think I've ever heard of any other clinic doing this. I think you're the only clinic. You do the consultation, you assess, the patient with the hairline, you kind of talk with the patient to come up on an agreed hairline. And then you start the extractions. You begin it. The doctors in your clinic are assisting with extractions and also placing the grafts, but you are the one that places the grafts in the hairline,
In the hairline.
specifically all the
Right.
hairlines. And
Hairline
then,
is an artistic part of the transplant. It's not, as I told you in the beginning, it's not like putting singles and make it zigzag and not straight.
yeah.
There are some ways. Maybe one of them is to use their own single hairs in their hairline that left and place them among the other ones so it will look much natural. And there are lots of tips and tricks to make it natural, which I do personally.
So I wanted to talk about this case here. Here we have a case. So graft amount 4,129 grafts. Hair ratio 2.5 hairs per graft. Hairs 10,322. So this was a 2-day session. These results are 12 months, and he's on finasteride and minoxidil. So here you see, this is probably an incredibly natural hairline, but you see he does have a little tuft here. So you did mention something about sometimes using their own natural hair and just kind of using that to
Exactly.
make it look even more natural.
In the morning of
And
the consultation, I remember this guy. He wanted to go his hairline a bit lower than this existing hair. So I advised him and I told him that we can achieve a crazy natural result if he let me do the line exactly in that point, where I can use his natural hair and try to give a very natural look, which actually is what we achieved. At the end of the day, he's really happy. That's why he lets me to expose the results.
so he initially wanted to go lower. He wanted the hairline a little bit lower than where this
Exactly.
frontal tuft is at. But
This would
you
actually uh, this would actually destroy his this very natural small hair that he have there. We will put them in the back, and it was a big mistake. Finally, I convinced him, and I'm very glad about it.
Yeah, that was an absolutely crucial game plan, because this looks so natural. And this is his natural. This is his native hair, and you just
It looks natural
transplanted behind
because
it.
it is natural. That's why it looks natural. It is natural.
Yeah,
Okay, we improved it a bit. We improved the density even on it, but still, using the natural hair is a very clever way to achieve natural results. And
yeah.
lots of patients have some natural hair left, which I personally try to use them a lot.
Yeah, and we have this other case. I wanna share this other case because I think you might have done the same thing here. So right here, he
Nice.
has a little bit of a. I could see he has some
You
residual
got me,
hair.
Melvin.
Yeah,
Okay, that's our
and this right here looks so incredibly soft, and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I think you did the same thing. So you kind of
yes,
left some of the
actually.
native hair, and I think that's why you marked it out here. And really, really smart move. I think that more surgeons should do that. Uh, but I think the most important critical thing for me is that you didn't leave a gap, right? Because some surgeons would say, okay, you have some hair here, and then maybe do transplant the hairline maybe like 2 centimeters behind.
No, this looks awful.
And that looks bad. That looks bad, bad. It
Looks
doesn't
very
look good.
bad.
You
After
went
the patient have
straight behind it.
always the problem, and they try to save them, they try to get rid of them. So yes, why to not to just use them?
Yeah. Or I mean, or why not just follow the pattern? Because he does have a fairly aggressive like hairline. Like this, I would consider this fairly aggressive because it's straight. And a lot of surgeons would be, what they would want to do is kind of start here. If you can see my cursor, they would start here and they would leave this kind of thin hairline, and their thinking is, oh well, when he eventually loses it, he'll have this other hairline behind it. But
But this
what's the
might
problem with
take
that?
a decade.
Might take a
You have,
decade. But what would be the immediate problem with that strategy, in your opinion?
after all, and then the patient the next day, not the next day, after 10 months that he have the results, he still have a problem. He's not satisfied. It's not still not what he wants because he still have a problem in the front. Some hair very sparse, one here, one there, which will make him look bald. Which that's not the target in a transplant. The target is to make someone look as he was in the past, as he was before start balding. And this guy had a very good donor area. So I told you, when I have the opportunity, I have very really good donor areas. I go for dense packing. I go for big extractions. As you can see in the after photos, the donor area still looks good. So why not? He can even do another one if he wants.
Here's another thing that I think because people will be like, I can't believe this is only 2,500 grafts. How did he do that? Right? Because this is completely bald, skin bald, and here it looks like an incredible density. But here's one thing I noticed with him: not only does he have incredible density, but his hair is very thick. This looks
Yes.
like very good coverage value. I mean, probably premium, top-notch coverage value that you're going to get. Very, very good. He has salt and pepper hair, which is good because it kind of blends. It makes it harder to see the scalp, and the number of just sheer hairs that he has is incredible. I mean, that's so dense and it's thick. So when you have a guy like this who is like, he's hitting all the marks on being a good candidate for a hair transplant, right?
Yes.
Uh, Amazing density in the donor, good coverage value for the hair shaft. The hair shaft diameter is thick and dense. He also still has his crown intact, so that saves so many grafts. Just having this crown saves you so many grafts. So he had everything going for himself. So I think you absolutely nailed this one, and yeah, I really like that you transplanted behind it, but you didn't leave a gap, which is crucial. because
It's
like I
crucial.
said, I've seen surgeons that will do, that they'll kind of do like a centimeter or two behind that really thin hair, and what happens is exactly what you said. It grows out. The patient is left still looking bald, like a balding guy. The strategy should be, fix it once and for all, not to
Fix it once
be
for all. If you
okay.
can,
You're gonna
fix it once
lose
and for all.
this. Yeah,
Actually, what I'm telling to my patients every time is that I don't want to see you again on my table.
yeah,
The best thing for me is to try to fix it once and for all. Uh, that's you cannot come again and again and again. If you can fix it once and for all, perfect. That's the best
yeah.
solution. Okay, it was a guy that was going for Norwood 6, not still Norwood 6, but was going towards there. He told me that he want to fix it once and for all, to finish it, and if possible, at least for some years, to have full head. So we went for a big extraction. We extracted, if I'm not mistaken, 4,700 something grafts. He had a good ratio, uh, thick hair, and we go for a very, very, very dense pack in the front, but also in the vortex. And you can see the results after a few months. He's full, and you can see also how natural it looks. I'm brushing also the hair so you can see the density all over.
Thank you so much, Dr. Salakos, for joining
You
the
still you
podcast.
still don't pronounce my name well, but I'm okay. You
I
love me
still
so
don't.
much.
Dr. T. We're just gonna call you
Doctor
Dr.
T,
T
Doctor
because
Chris, keep it
yeah,
simple.
yeah, Dr. Chris,
After
yeah,
all,
because
after all of my patients from abroad call me Doctor Chris. It's easier for them.
yeah, it's very hard. Yeah, I'm trying. Salakos.
Tsakalos.
Oh, Sakalos. Okay,
Yes. Doesn't matter,
okay,
Melvin. All good.
Sakalos. Okay,
Thank you very much
yeah.
for inviting me. It was a pleasure, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, definitely. If you guys want to check out Dr. Chris, go check him out at Choiexpert on Instagram, and they have their website, which is also Choiexpert. Well, thank you so much